You're not just a meat shield, you're the tip of the spear. If you think tanking is just walk forward and soak damage, well then you're kind of playing it wrong. Great Vanguard players don't take space, they own it. They create pressure, deny flanks, and control the entire flow of the fight. And in this video, I'm breaking down how to master positioning as a Vanguard, when to push, where to hold, and how to make space without feeding. And as this is a masterclass video, at the beginning we're talking about the basics, then we're going to get into more advanced details and techniques later on. And at 20,000 subscribers, we're doing a giveaway, so make sure to subscribe. But without further ado, I hope you sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So let's start with the basics, because this is where most Vanguard players mess up. Good positioning doesn't mean standing directly on the point like a statue or just being the first one through the door. It means being in a location where three things are happening at once. And the first one is you're creating pressure. Think of it this way, enemies have to respect you, whether it's your presence at a key angle, your turret covering a line, or your ability to dive in at any moment. You're threatening something. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean fighting constantly, it means you are forcing decisions. They can't just walk in or peek a corner for free because you are standing right there. Following that, you need to be hard to ignore. This is the heart of a good Vanguard play, because if the enemy team can ignore you, they absolutely will, and when that happens, it's most likely game over. So here's the deal, you're not a turret, you're not supposed to stand still and soak all the damage. Your job is to be in a position where the enemy has to make a choice. Think of it this way, do they focus you and waste cooldowns into your thick health pool just for you to disengage behind cover, or do they ignore you and let you walk up, brawl their DPS, block your escape, and peel their flank? Either choice, it's going to be a win for you. Being hard to ignore means you're constantly threatening something. A turret angle, a swing, a zone, even just the possibility of engaging forces enemy DPS to play tighter and more cautiously, and that gives your team room to breathe. When playing tank, I think there's always a kind of misconception of what you need to be doing. For example, you don't need to always be going in, just existing in the right place, close enough to be a threat, but far enough not to instantly die pulls focus. It splits their team's attention, it drains cooldowns, and it opens up space for your DPS and your strategists to work around with. Now, from all of my observing and coaching players, most average tank players just push forward blindly or hide too long in the back, and neither option really works for your team. And you see this time and time again in high elo play and even in pro play, is that the best Vanguards know exactly when to appear the moment they're needed to bait utility, force positioning errors, and make sure somebody is always looking over their shoulder. Something you have to understand is when you don't do this, when you play too passively or too safe, or you're just out of position, the enemy will straight up walk past you like you're not even there and dive straight into your supports. And your DPS also gets deleted, your healers panic, your team collapses, and everyone starts yelling no tank, and honestly, they're not necessarily wrong. So remember, good Vanguard positioning doesn't just keep you alive, it forces the enemies to play your game, and that's the kind of presence that wins the fight before it even begins. For the third one, you have to think about your minimizing risk while maximizing impact. And this is where elite Vanguard players separate themselves from the rest. You're minimizing your risk while maximizing your impact. Let's be clear, Vanguards are tanky, but they are not unkillable. Just because you have more health or armor doesn't mean you're allowed to feed. If you treat your health bar like a hall pass to do anything you want, you're just charging enemy ults for free. I think this is a major misconception that a lot of players kind of overlooked. You kind of have to think of it this way. Great Vanguard play is about calculated aggression. You don't just rush in because your cooldowns are off cooldown. You don't take damage just because you can. You're constantly asking yourself, can my team follow up? Am I drawing resources I can escape from, which is a major one that a lot of people overlook? And am I creating enough pressure to justify the damage I'm taking? Look at Doctor Strange for example. Good Strange players know their shields are the strongest when used from safe ground. They stand mid to close range, control space from behind cover, and only move forward when they know they can deny entry or secure a pick. They're doing a ton of work, peeling, blocking sightlines, controlling space, all while being hard to punish. This is what minimizing risks look like. You're using cover like a sniper, you are peeking just enough to draw fire or bait cooldowns, and you're backing up the moment things get dangerous. You're not necessarily avoiding the fights, you're kind of shaping them, forcing them to play into you. And when the moment comes, you flip the switch. You've baited out key utility, you've waited for the numbers advantage, you've communicated with your team, now you commit, and because you waited for the right moment, your impact is huge. Compare that to someone who face checks every choke, runs in first, or tries to 1v3 before their team is even in position. They get eliminated before this fight even begins. No impact, no space, just another respawn and a wasted opportunity. This is what good positioning is all about. You're not just in the fight, you're in the right place at the right time when the right threat level. You decide when the fight begins, you create space for your team to walk, you absorb pressure when it's safe to do so, and you dish it back when the enemy can't respond. And that's what separates a feeding frontliner from a fight-winning vanguard. You're not the first to die, you're not the last one standing because you chase your moment. Now, touching back to our first topic of enemies having to respect you, is just a little bit more in depth. So again, you don't necessarily have to constantly swing or dive to be threatening. Sometimes the most dangerous thing you can do is just being there. Just standing in the right place, watching an angle, holding a high ground, standing behind some type of cover with a cooldown ready. That alone forces the enemy team to play and fight that team fight differently. Now, again, it's not just about raw aggression, it's also about psychological pressure. You are forcing decisions they don't want to make. Things to consider is, do they rotate wide and give up tempo? Do they burn cooldowns early to avoid you? Do they wait, stalling the push and lose momentum? Or do they risk walking into you and potentially losing their support player in the first 3 seconds? Any of those outcomes and that's your win. That's what real space control looks like. Now, another way to think about it is that when your positioning is solid, they can't just peek corners for free. They can't just rotate without cost. Even looking in your direction becomes a super dangerous idea. And that's most of the time what respect looks like. And that respect is what creates space for your DPS players to set up, or your strategists or supports to reposition without pressure, or your whole team to push in behind you. Now, if you still don't what I mean, think of it this way. Every second the enemy is worrying about you, they're not shooting at any of your duelists. They're not collapsing on your Black Widow on high ground or your Punisher, and they're not pushing into your backline, abusing your supports. That's real impact, and you didn't have to press a single button to do it. You have to remember, you're not a brawler who only matters during cooldowns. You're a presence, you are a problem they can't afford to ignore, and they have to account for. And when they don't respect you, that's when you punish them. So remember, you are not just there to absorb damage, you're there to force the enemy to play your game. If they can walk past you without a second thought, then you're not really playing a Vanguard the way it should be played. You're more or less just a spectator at that point. Now that you got a good fundamental base, let's dive into a practical section of this video and take us straight into game. So what we have is the new map Araco, or however you want to call it. Notice our positioning at the start. We're sitting on the cart, which is a good idea. Typically on the map Araco, you want to push the cart to about this corner here, maintaining a ton of frontline pressure, or tanks get pulled. But once it gets to about this jump pad, we can start thinking about this high ground here. The second we get the high ground up top, it immediately reacts to the defending team that they have to push back, because we have the high ground advantage. As our Magneto is still maintaining this position where he's pressuring their front line, and we have the high ground advantage and the high ground on the left side, it starts thinking like, okay, our defensive team needs to make a decision. Do we keep fighting or do we fall back? As you can see, the positioning of the defending team's backline is not in a place to really help the defending tanks. This is a scenario that you never want to be doing. This is why if I was on the defending team, I'm telling my team to maintain this high ground position as best as we can. Especially on a map like this choke is pretty easy to hold on the defending side if you hold up top. The second you're playing below and you have two high ground angles to be looking at, it's definitely going to be a lot harder. And as you can see, we're still maintaining our frontline pressure while having our duelists on either side, pushing them away. Again, pressuring our frontline and our positioning. Again, positioning equals pressure. Pressure equals the enemies not being able to work with a lot of space. As our tanks constantly walk up and they're down a player, the reaction is that the defending team has to back up. They have to back up and respect the space is lost because they're down one, and their tanks aren't doing the best job of continuing the pressure. So a cloak goes out, which is good for the defending team because if you look at top, none of this team is on the capabilities of countering the ultimate. But we just reaggress with ults again. And still maintaining this frontline pressure is a great idea. Even though we're down one, we're still maintaining the pressure and not trying to lose all of the space we originally had to take. And if we fast forward, a couple fights, what you can notice is again the defending team doesn't take this high ground advantage, and they let the attacking team just walk up and take that pressure, take that space, and force the enemies down. It's because we're doing this positioning that doesn't allow for the defenders to really move around it. As we have the Emma pulling forward with the ultimate ability, that's going to hit all of the supports, and we still have our mag protecting the rest of our team, which is definitely something to always be aware of. That's why positioning is a crucial factor. And as you can see, with the positioning of our other tanks, we have our Doctor Strange kind of in a off spot in comparison to the other tanks. The Magneto bubbles himself instead of the Punisher, which is just a bad choice, I would say. Yeah. A lot of this has to do with the positioning of the tanks and how they were so easily able to move the enemies around because of how they positioned. So if we go back again, you can see it more. Especially on the second point of Araco, which should be another defender-sided map. But when we look at the positioning, we have our tanks low ground on the defending team. Our team is still not together, and the position of our attacking team is one death ball grouped on the high ground. And because they're not really mirroring this, we can easily take the space that is left there and force the enemies to be in very bad positions. This is a position this Magneto should never be in. If anything, the defending team should be fighting the bridge, but when we look at the positioning of the Magneto in comparison to his own Emma, they're not playing together, which is very bad. In comparison, we have two tanks playing together side by side, so the space is going to be lost for the defending team. These are all things that need to be considered. And as you see, once the Magneto decides to, try to position, I'm not really sure. In this scenario, the Magneto is the main tank, while Emma Frost is the quote-unquote off tank, in theory. The Magneto should be up here with the Emma Frost. There's no reason why the Magneto needs to be here. He's not doing anything beneficial for the team besides losing space for his team. The invisible boundary comes up from the invis. As you can see, we go for a quick Magneto ult. Again, if we were positioned inside with the rest of our team, a scenario like this should never be happening. But basically what this allows the attacking team to do is push the carts a ton and just maintain a lot of space. So again, we're looking at the positioning. See that our Magneto is pushing, and you're like, that's a terrible play. Why are we pushing? But we have Hello ult. So we position ourselves to cut off the healer, or cut off the healing lane or the back line, so that the Cloak and Dagger cannot peek to heal the rest of our team. When we do this, it forces a position where the Cloak and Dagger has to back up, or die trying. And because we do that, the rest of the team is able to grab space. In this position, I would like the Magneto to be on one side and probably the Emma Frost on the other side, which we end up doing, which is a great job. So this basically forces, the enemy to do one of the two options. Of course, the card's at the end, but before that, it was either go and force the Magneto, or you go and force the Emma. Whichever side you pick, the other one would rotate to help out. But because of the time and we're holding both sides, they don't have a chance to recontest. That's why his positioning is a very big thing. There's two entrances to this point from the defending side, 1 and 2. You hold both of them with tanks, in theory, no one should be able to cross. Now again, positioning is a big thing. You can see the Vanguards on the attacking team instantly grab the space on the high ground because again, high ground is the advantage in this game. High ground is a major factor. The second we get high ground, the defending team is immediately at a disadvantage because high ground allows for better angles, better chances to get eliminations, and have a better, area to be watching over. So we can be looking for flanks, we could be looking for optimal ways to use our ultimates. Having the high ground is always a better option. Unfortunately, one of the duelists goes down for the attacking team. It's no big deal. But even though we lose that one duelist, because we're on that high ground and we have the high ground advantage, and when we look at our spawn, we're right here. We can still maintain this space and not let them push up. Even though we lack some DPS or damaging power, we can still hold this high ground. There's no reason why we shouldn't be. Again, if I'm in the defending side's shoes, what do I do here? Well, realistically, what I should be doing on the defending side is coming back, going up this ramp, coming up here, and fighting the attacking team on a high ground. Because it's way better to be, even though it's a small corridor, it's way better to be fighting on a quote-unquote even playing field, which would be the same level, the same ground level, rather than being at this high to low ground battle, which is never going to be working out. Again, basically just maintaining the space until the cart gets into a decent location to be able to do anything. Now, dropping here, in my opinion, isn't necessarily the best plan. If anything, I think we still maintain this height, try to get some picks, or go down the right side and do something. Because we jumped off the high ground, we lose the ability to control the high ground. The Psylocke on the defending team is enabled to go for this flank route and possibly get rid of one of the supports. But it's kind of the same thing after a quick team wipe. We see the payload's position. It's at the middle, and the attacking or defending team has a cap, so it's pushing back. But instead of necessarily pushing this lower ground, we decide it's a way better idea to go for the high ground, which again is a great position to be in, is this high ground. The faster we take this high ground, to be able to do anything on the defending team's vanguards, the vanguards are going to have to give this space on the payload. They're going to have to push back and protect the rest of their team. And when we do that, you could send one person from the attacking team to flip the cart and slowly pushing in the attacking team's favor again. So it's all about micro and macro, and we're on a triple vanguard setup now on a defending team. So because we maintain the high ground, they're at a disadvantage again, and they're forced to pop ultimates. And at this position, someone on the attacking team should go down, flip the cart, so this scenario isn't happening. But regardless, we have the advantage. We have a Hela on high ground because of the positioning of our vanguards. we're able to go for picks and go for some pretty aggressive plays that will lead to eliminations and allow the attacking team to quite literally steamroll the defensive side. Again, this is why positioning is a major factor to Vanguard play. Even though it doesn't necessarily seem like it's the biggest difference in the world, you can see that the little things do add up. Us being up top allows them to go for easy picks. Us being up top denies the sidelock the chance to try to go for a flank. And as you can see, if we had someone high ground, this Punisher wouldn't even be thinking about this at all. And quite literally, I don't think the Punisher thought any of this through. But I'm not going to flame anybody. It's just funny to watch. Again, when we look at positioning, we're doing a good job of positioning on the Vanguard side for the attacking team. Trying to body block as best as we can. No damage is done to the rest of the team because we body blocked the healers. And throwing people out of position. Again, very good positioning. And again, as you notice something here, I think this is a big one when it comes to Emma Frost or shield characters. When you throw a shield up, it acts as a wall or a way to block line of sight. Right now, this Cloak and Dagger, she cannot heal her two Vanguards because of the Emma Frost shield. In order to actually get the heal off, she has to come down the ramp and get to in a more dangerous zone, if that makes sense, to try to heal the rest of her team. And because of that, she gets punished for that. And for the most part, it's just a grudge map on the last point, because that's just kind of how it goes most of the time. But you can see like what I'm trying to explain here, why positioning is a major factor, right? In this instance, when the card's here, we should be looking to re-aggress and go back up on the defending side now. As we push the enemy back, our positioning. Now, in this case, the reason why our Magneto is in the back at this position is because we have both of our strategists here. Because both of our strategists here, the Black Panther is going to be getting a lot of value. Now, I'm not necessarily saying that Emma Frost could also be in this position as well. But the thing is, because who we're pushing into, it's a lot better for the Emma Frost to be, up close. The Magneto needs to be able to do a reactive bubble on top of our strategist, which is perfectly fine. It's the same thing at this case when we look at our positioning. It's a little crazy here because there's a lot of ults going, but for the most part, I mean, they do manage to get pushed through. And overall, it's pretty good, like solid Vanguard play of what you're supposed to do. Because the attacking team isn't taking this high ground, we don't necessarily need to be reactive and take the high ground as well. It all depends on where the opponent is playing. Because of where they're positioned, we can play a little bit more aggressively in comparison to more defensively. For the most part, it's pretty solid play, and they do end up getting the win in the end. Hopefully, this gives you a better picture in your head of how to position as a Vanguard, if that makes sense. Or if you have any questions about positioning as a Vanguard at all in Marvel Rivals, let me know in the comments down below, and I'd be happy to answer your questions. And if you want to check out any of my other masterclasses, make sure to check them out. They're all already uploaded. Whether you're picking up Vanguard for the first time, you're looking to play an off tank, you don't know other things about Vanguards, you don't know how to peel, I cover all the bases to really help you out. And of course, if you're new here or find yourself coming back on the regular and you aren't already subscribed yet, why not? It's completely free and you're coming back anyways. At 20,000 subscribers, we're doing a giveaway, so might as well hop in. But regardless, I hope you have a great and safe day, and I'll catch you in the next one.